the time to join us today at this very important launch. We'd really like to welcome you to the virtual launch of ActionAid, Oxfam, and Mezan Center for Human Rights joint briefing note, Compelled to Flee, Cycles of Israel's Forced Displacement of Palestinians. We are gathered here today to continue to maintain focus on the critical issue of the forced displacement of Palestinians and to continue to ensure that the world's eyes remain on the deeply troubling scale of forced displacement that is having unspeakable humanitarian impact on the population of Gaza and will have deep social and political implications in a way that has not been seen in Palestine since the events of the Nakba in 1948. I would like to start by thanking all those attending for really making the time to join us. And please allow me to also welcome our revered panelists who have joined us for this launch. We will be joined by Bushra Khalidi, who is the policy lead at Oxfam and who will kindly moderate this panel. I believe you've seen Bushra now speaking. We welcome Dr. Issam Yunus, the director of Mezan Center based in Gaza, who will share with us the challenges of displaced people from both West Bank and Gaza. We have Samir Zagut and Basil Arda, who will share with us their journey of displacement. And we will also hear from Asafa Riata, who has faced multiple displacements and the demolition of his home over many years. Please also join me in welcoming Ms. Francesca Albanese, the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories occupied since 1967. And the Special Rapporteur on IDPs, Ms. Paula Gaviria Bentacor, has unfortunately not been able to join us today and sends her apologies and well wishes. We acknowledge that this topic can evoke strong emotions and personal experiences. Please know that your well-being is paramount. Take care of yourself during our conversation and feel free to step back or seek support if needed. So let me just quickly outline the objectives of the paper. The policy report aims to promote advocacy efforts with Oxfam and Mezan to support the rights of the Palestinian people and demand immediate ceasefire and justice for the Palestinian people. Our aim to loudly denounce Israel's ongoing forced displacement in Gaza and the West Bank and to stop a possible deportation of Palestinians from Gaza. The report stemmed from the announcement made by the government of Israel on its intention to expand military operations in Rafah. The document should act as a reminder that for decades, and starting with the Nakba, the Israeli government has systematically worked to expel Palestinians from the areas it controls. Situations of women and girls have been at the forefront of our minds throughout this crisis. Displacement has always been painful and has had a devastating impact on the lives of displaced people. Women and girls always bear the brunt of displacement. The situation in Gaza is unlivable. Some 1.7 million Palestinians, 75% of Gaza's population, have fled their homes and communities. It is worsening every day in the West Bank. The report gives voice to women and girls in Gaza, describing the terrible impacts that it is having for them and their families, following these 6 months of relentless bombardments, fear, and displacements. And I quote from the report the word of one woman's experience. "I was pregnant when the war began, and I gave birth on the 3rd day of the war. We fled under missile strikes with debris and shattered glass flying everywhere. We arrived at the hospital, but it was soon bombed as well. I gave birth as a result of fear." The report also contains quotes from Butaina of Wakaf Association and Sahar from Palestinian Development Women Studies Association, 2 Palestinian women organizations that ActionAid partners with, who are trying to address the urgent needs of women and girls in the most difficult of circumstances. The paper is a call to action. I would ask all of you attending this event to make it a point to share this report with your governments and key stakeholders and continue to remind them that forcible transfer and deportation are serious violations of international law and atrocity crimes. Silence is complicity. The UN Security Council has passed a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire. The International Court of Justice has issued additional provisional measures in South Africa's genocide case against Israel. Action is needed. Finally, and I quote from the report, failing to act condemns future generations of Palestinians to ongoing dispossession and exile, eroding any remaining hopes for a just and viable solution that is rooted in international law. Please do read and share the report, which will be available after 6 p.m. Jerusalem time or 4 o'clock UK time on ActionAid, Oxfam, and Mezan's communication channels. Back to you, Bushra. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Razmi. So I want to start by a few apologies on behalf of the Special Rapporteur for Internally Displaced people. She is not able to make it due to some personal reasons. So she is happy to engage privately. So if there are some opportunities to do so, we'll be definitely looking into that. And Ms. Albanese will be joining us, but is a little delayed and has just informed us of it. And then we see that Basil is online. Basil, thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to hearing from you later. But we will start with Dr. Aysam Younes, who is the director of a renowned human rights organization that monitors violations and that reports to the UN and Human Rights Council and all different legal and non-legal as well accountability mechanisms. They have a long-standing reputation, have worked with many of the INGOs for many years, and do incredible advocacy work, but also important work that right now so many are restricted or prevented from doing in terms of monitoring violations in Gaza and the atrocity crimes that are currently occurring in Gaza. I salute Mezan for their work and their resilience throughout this entire time, and for your continued efforts as well in the different capitals of the world that we've seen you speak at. Truly, it's an honor to have you, Dr. Aysam. So I will leave the floor to you before we continue our discussion. I just want to also note to people that there will not be a Q&A today. We will be taking, we have different representatives that will be spokespeople for the different organizations. Please get in touch with us, and we're happy to do interviews and some public media if you're a journalist and you're watching us today. Dr. Aysam, over to you. Thank you so much.
شكرا بشرى. الترجمة تمام؟
Yeah, just a note, Dr. Aysam will be speaking in Arabic, and therefore you need to switch to the language so that you can hear Mary translate to you live.
Okay, شكرا جزيلا بشرى. شكرا رزمي. شكرا Oxfam Christian ActionAid على إنجاز هذا التقرير المهم في هذا الوقت بالذات، وشكرا على تنظيم هذا اللقاء لإطلاق هذا التقرير. في حدود الوقت المتاح أنا سأتحدث عن ما هو شخصي، لأني أنا من غزة. أنا عصام يونس، مدير مركز الميزان في غزة، ومقيم في غزة إلى شهر ديسمبر الماضي، يعني عشت جزء من الحرب أنا وعائلتي. وسأتحدث عن واقع قطاع غزة الآن. لكن قبل الحديث عن التجربة الشخصية وجب أن نضع موضوع التهجير في السياق الصحيح، بما يعني أن أولا الوقت الآن في الأراضي الفلسطينية ولا سيما في قطاع غزة يحسب بطريقة مختلفة، يحسب بعدد المهجرين، يحسب بعدد الأطفال الذين يسقطون، يحسب بعدد كاسات الماء التي يتمكن الإنسان من الوصول إليها، وبحبة الدواء. يعني الوقت من دم، الوقت من معاناة حقيقية. وعلى الرغم من هذه الحقيقة لازلنا الآن نصف سنة على العدوان على القطاع، ولم يتم التقدم خطوة واحدة نحو حماية المدنيين ونحو وضع حد للجرائم المرتكبة ووقف إطلاق النار وعودة الأمور إلى ما كانت عليه، الدعوة إلى حماية المدنيين. التهجير في نهاية الأمر هو جزء من ما هو قديم، حديث متأصل في العقيدة وليس بشيء جديد. يعني تاريخ الفلسطينيين هو تاريخ التهجير، ابتدأ بالنكبة في العام 48 ولم ينتهي اليوم. وأعتقد أننا الآن نشهد استكمال لذلك المخطط الكولونيالي الاستيطاني الذي يهدف إلى طرد الفلسطينيين من أرضهم. طبعا كلنا نعلم بأن التاريخ لم يبدأ منذ 7 أكتوبر، يعني جملة الممارسات السابقة على 7 أكتوبر من تقييد حرية الحركة للأفراد والبضائع، السيطرة على الأراضي، إضافة مزيد من الوحدات السكنية للمستوطنات، عزل المدن وتفتيت وحدة الجغرافيا والديموغرافيا، أقصد هنا وحدة الحالة الفلسطينية. أوسلو عرف الأراضي بأنها أراضي وحدة سياسية واحدة، ولا يجوز المساس بسلامتها الإقليمية. إذا كان هناك ما هو حسن في أوسلو على الأقل فهذه المادة أكدت على ذلك، لنشهد هذا التفتيت المنظم لوحدة الأراضي ووحدة النظام السياسي. جملة الأوامر العسكرية بالعودة إليها التي تقيد وتهجر الفلسطينيين من منطقة باء ومنطقة ألف والقدس، وعملية منظمة واعية ومدركة. والآن في قطاع غزة أنا أعتقد كل ما يحدث في قطاع غزة من تقتيل وقصف منازل على رؤوس ساكنية وتدمير بنى تحتية وتدمير المنشآت الصحية وإخراج المستشفيات عن الخدمة وتدمير آلاف بل مئات الآلاف من الكيلومترات من الشوارع وتدمير المدارس والدور العبادة ومحطات الصرف الصحي ومحطات المياه. كل هذا أنا في ظني هو collateral damage، هو خسارة جانبية، لأن الراشنال الأساسي، الفكرة الأساسية هي تهجير الفلسطينيين. لأجل ذلك هم دفعوا وطلبوا من السكان في مختلف مناطق قطاع غزة بالذهاب جنوبا والتكدس في مدينة رفح. 2 مليون نسمة أخلوا منازلهم في مناطق مختلفة من القطاع، جزء منهم تمكن من الوصول إلى رفح، الجزء الآخر في المنطقة الوسطى. وبالمناسبة 2 مليون مهجر، أنا أعتقد هم في النهاية حوالي 10 مليون، بمعنى أنه هو تم نزوحه 5 أو 6 مرات، هي ليست مرة واحدة. ترك بيته راح لمكان آمن، هو ترك أجبر على التهجير 5 أو 6 مرات خلال هذه ال6 شهور. أنا تركت منزلي على سبيل المثال في الأسبوع الأول من العدوان بناء على ما طلب الجيش الاحتلال من المواطنين. أخلينا، تركنا منزلنا خلفنا في مدينة غزة، توجهنا جنوبا في ممر في رحلة بالغة الخطورة وصولا إلى رفح. رفح مدينة يبلغ تعداد يعني مساحتها حوالي 60 كيلومتر مربع، يقطنها 260 ألف نسمة. تعد من قبل مركز الجهاز المركزي للإحصاء الفلسطيني بأنها الأكثر فقرا لتدهور البنية التحتية وعدم موائمتها وملائمتها، وللوضع الاقتصادي الاجتماعي الثقافي القائم في المدينة. يعني البنية التحتية غير قادرة على خدمة ال 260 ألف نسمة، فما بالكم اليوم ويتكدس في رفح حوالي 1,400,000 نسمة في وضع كارثي. طبعا يعني هذا التهجير هو القصد منه ضغط المواطنين على الحدود المصرية، ولا زال التهجير قائما. التلويح بدخول رفح يعني ليس فقط مجازر ومذابح وسقوط أعداد من المدنيين، أيضا هو قد يدفع نحو فرض أمر واقع على كل الفاعلين بما فيهم الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية والآخرين بتهجير الفلسطينيين. وذلك حديث يطول، آمل أن يكون يعني هناك وقت ما للحديث أكثر في هذا الموضوع. عملية التهجير لم تكن آمنة، قصفت منازلنا، دمرت جزئيا وكليا. نتحدث الآن عن حوالي يعني الأرقام متفاوتة، لأنه خطورة قائمة أمام طواقمنا لمعرفة ما يحدث على وجه الخصوص. غالبية الطواقم أيضا في نهاية الأمر هم لديهم عائلات فنزحوا إلى جنوب قطاع غزة، وبالتالي المعرفة الدقيقة للمعلومات غير متوفرة. ولكن على الأقل من 60 إلى 80% من الوحدات السكنية في قطاع غزة من المباني الحضرية تم تدميرها. وبالتالي نحن نتحدث هنا عن حالة منظمة ومقصودة الغرض منها إيقاع الأذى في المدنيين، وفيها نزعة انتقام عالية، جزء مما يوصفه الكتاب بالعودة إلى اتفاقية مناهضة الجينوسايد. بالضبط هذا ما قصد به المشرع، ما قصد به من وضع الاتفاقية في توصيف جريمة الإبادة الجماعية. هي الجريمة الأخطر، هي أم الجرائم. عندما يتم قتل أفراد من السكان وتهجيرهم وتدمير منازلهم وبنيتهم التحتية، هو في نهاية الأمر مخطط للإبادة الجماعية للناس. الآن نزح المواطنون، وطبعا بسذاجة كما جرت العادة اعتقدوا أن العلم الأزرق قد يوفر لهم حماية، فالتجأوا إلى العلم الأزرق. قصف العلم الأزرق وقصفوا معه، وسقط كثيرون من المدنيين في مراكز الإيواء التي وجههم الجيش للذهاب إليها، إما في طريقهم إلى تلك المراكز أو في المراكز أنفسها. وطبعا الآن المراكز، ناهيكم عن الاكتظاظ الهائل السكاني، الكتلة السكانية الأكبر تم إزاحتها إلى جنوب القطاع. كل ذلك يأتي في ما أعلن الاحتلال منذ بداية عدوانه على القطاع، من أنه يعني السيد نتنياهو رئيس الوزراء قال على سكان قطاع غزة المغادرة، ذلك ما ذكره في أول أكتوبر. ثم ما قال السيد جالانت وزير الدفاع بأنه السكان القطاع هم حيوانات بشرية، وهم من الآن ممنوعون من الوصول إلى الماء والغذاء والدواء والوقود. بالتالي هي عملية منظمة ومدركة وموعى بها. المشكلة أن العالم سمع ذلك ويعلم ذلك، و6 شهور وهو يعطي إسرائيل وقتا للمضي قدما في هذا المخطط. استمرار إطلاق النار، استمرار العدوان، يعني رخصة للقتل، مزيد من القتل، مزيد من إعمال الأذى في السكان المدنيين، ومزيد من انتهاكات خطيرة لقواعد القانون الدولي. وليست هنا في صدد العودة، ربما صديقتنا فرانشيسكا سوف يعني تعالج الموضوع القانوني بشكل أوسع، خصوصا مع البروفيشنال ميجرز، الإجراءات التي اتخذتها المحكمة الجنائية الدولية. أنا حتى لا أطيل، المراكز الإيواء في ظل هذا التقييد الخطير جدا على إمدادات الوقود والغذاء والمساعدات الإنسانية في جنوب القطاع ألقى بتبعات خطيرة. استخدم التجويع والطعام كسلاح في هذا العدوان، وهو بالغ الخطورة. هي جريمة حرب تستوجب ملاحقة من يقترفها ومن يأمر باقترافها، ولم يتم حتى الآن تفعيل المبادئ الأساسية التي كنا نطالب بها على مدى عقود، إن الكلمة المفتاحية في الأراضي الفلسطينية هي المحاسبة. في غياب المحاسبة كنا نقول الأسوأ قادم، وغياب المحاسبة يعني أن هناك من يدعي أنه فوق القانون وأنه لن يخضع إلى حد أدنى من المساءلة. وهذا ما يفسر تكرار مشهد الجريمة. قطاع غزة تعرضت إلى عدوان في 2008، ثم في 2012، ثم في 2014، 2021، 2023، ولما تنتهي الحكاية بعد. لماذا كل ذلك؟ لأن هناك من يشعر أنه فوق القانون، وأن هناك من يوفر له الغطاء السياسي والقانوني، وأن مبدأ المحاسبة لم يتم إعماله. عدم إعمال مبدأ المحاسبة يعني أن من يأمن العقاب يسيء الأدب، وتمت إساءة الأدب على مدى عقود، والآن يتكرر وسوف يساء الأدب مرة أخرى إذا بقي العالم يتعامل مع ذلك المكان من العالم على هذا النحو. اليوم بالمناسبة أكبر عدد من الشاحنات دخل إلى قطاع غزة منذ 6 شهور، 322 شاحنة. وطبعا يعني هذا يعني بيعتبروه كثيرين إنجاز. وهنا نستذكر عمال الإغاثة الذين سقطوا، ونقدم بالغ العزاء لعائلاتهم ولمؤسساتهم، ولكن يعني كانوا هم ينتظروا سقوط هؤلاء الضحايا من العمال الإغاثة ليزيدوا عدد الشاحنات، وكأنه نوع من الرشاوى السياسية الأخلاقية. هذا كلام لابد من التأمل فيه جيدا. مراكز الإيواء الآن تعاني ليس فقط من نقص إمدادات الغذاء، وإنما انتشرت الأوبئة. بالعودة إلى تقارير منظمة الصحة العالمية والأونروا وخلافه، هناك انتشار للجدري، الالتهابات الرئوية، الالتهاب الكبد الوبائي، الطفح الجلدي، أمراض حقيقية الآن تنتشر، أوبئة بفعل عدم وجود مياه صالحة للشرب، مياه، عدم تصريف، يعني الصرف الصحي أيضا هناك مشكلة، وعدم وصول إمدادات الغذاء. وطبعا تفضلتم بالحديث عن المعاناة الأكبر للنساء من حوامل وغيره، والأطفال الرضع الذين يعانون معاناة كبيرة. كل ذلك على مرأى ومسمع من العالم. يعني أنهي هنا، أدرك أنه ربما أدركنا الوقت، ولكن نعود إلى جذر المشكلة. الموضوع الآن هي لحظة حقيقة، إما العدالة أو شريعة الغاب، قول واحد، إما الإنسانية أو الشر المطلق. لا يوجد لا ربع عدالة ولا نصف عدالة. الفلسطينيون تواقون إلى العدالة، ومرة أخرى كما نقول دائما بأننا جزء من جماعة العالم المتحضر، نقبل بما يقبل ونرفض ما يرفض. أحد أدوات العالم المتحضر المحكمة الجنائية الدولية، توجهنا إليها في اليوم التالي لتوجهنا إليها تم اتهامنا بأننا لا ساميون. نقد الاحتلال يعني فعلا لا ساميا. ولكن هذه المحكمة قررت فتح التحقيق بعد عمل مضني على مدى سنوات في المرحلة الأولى مرحلة الفحص التمهيدي، ولكن تقرر فتح التحقيق في مارس من العام 2021 على الرغم من كل هذه الجرائم التي تبث لأول مرة منذ الحرب العالمية الثانية لايف مباشرة على الهواء، القتل والتجويع على الهواء. وحتى الآن لم يتقدم التحقيق خطوة واحدة باتجاه الضحايا الفلسطينيين. إذا نحن أمام سؤال حقيقي. المطلوب الآن على وجه السرعة إنهاء هذا العدوان فورا، عودة المشردين والنازحين إلى بيوتهم إذا كان لهم بيوت، وإعادة يعني تزويدهم باحتياجاتهم الأساسية كبني بشر، وضمان أعمال المحاسبة بأن من ارتكب هذه الجريمة يجب أن لا يهرب بجريمته مرة أخرى. شكرا لكم، و يعني أتمنى لكم لقاء مثمر.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aysam. Okay, so to continue, Miss Albanese is still running late, but has messaged and said she will be here. So, Basil, if you're with us, it would be great if you could tell us about you, your story, and your achievements lately as well, that I'm aware of. But it would be great as well if you could, definitely share all of that, and maybe some of your stories and the context that you live in, and how that compares to what is happening in Gaza as well. Because as Mr. Aysam was saying, there's a link. It's the same thing, but it's just at a different scale and in a different way. But displacement has been part of our stories and our narratives for years, through our generations, through our parents, and through now your daily life and your daily reality. So thank you so much for making the time. I know you're really busy and everybody wants to speak to you. And thank you for coming today on this panel. The floor is yours.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and really thank you for hosting me and for this important event. So for those who doesn't know, I live in Masafir Yatta, is a small Palestinian town in the southern occupied West Bank. We are divided small villages in this area on about 50,000 dunum. We are the last place in the southern occupied West Bank, and our land, it's connected to the Bedouins in the Negev, which was occupied in 1948 during the Nakba. And actually some of Palestinian villages of Masafir Yatta was the people were displaced and were like ethnic cleansing during the Nakba, and those villages and the remains of those villages are today forbidden for us to go visit them or to be there or to go back to live there for sure. So Masafir Yatta, it suffers what all the people suffers in Palestine, especially in what's so called Area C. As Area C, it's the 60% of the West Bank, and where you always hear the Israeli politicians, prime ministers, not just in this previous government, but all the governments, as they always say, that they want to prevent Palestinians to have their own state. They go through that they're supporting settlements, building more settlements in this area, which is 60% of the West Bank. So my family and my community and the area of Masafir Yatta have been subject of land thefting by the settlers and the state of Israel for decades. It started technically in the 80s, where they did three actions, main actions, in order to legitimize the stealing of our land. Legitimize for their military law that they are forcing it on us as Palestinians living here. So first of all, they declared or they designated 14 out of the 20 of Masafir Yatta communities as a firing zone area, which is meant to take these Palestinians out from their homes, from their communities, and to give this land to the Israeli forces to do their own military training in this land. in other pieces of land where I live, for example, next to my home, like few hundred meters away, and in the other two communities, they start building settlements for the settlers, and they start digging roads. And with that, they start to mark everything about us Palestinians is illegal, and anything we want to build, like school, like home, like to get water, to get electricity, to get like any construction that we want to get, it should go through the army, that we should ask them permission, and the policy go that they always reject this permission, that they won't give us any permission, but always they legitimize, but not just legitimize, but they are facilitating the construction for the settlers to build more settlements, to settle in our land, to build farms. They have a huge farm, for example, of cows, of cherries, of vineyard, public transportations, highways for the settlers, public transportation, like everything the settlers need. Before even the settler come live there, those things must be there waiting for the settler. And us as Palestinians who's indigenous in this land, living for decades here, our presence became illegal. And this is how we call it, like ongoing Nakba, for example, on our places. That it's a Nakba, but not how they did it in the Nakba. They are ethnic cleansing us, but under the pretext that it's of the law. So it's illegal for me as a young man here who have been raised in this area. I need to build my home. I need to build my family, to get married, to have children, to build a home. And if I do, this home will become illegal. In a village next to us, they decide to build a school for the kids because they have been not receiving education. This school, like they apply for permission and they never got permission. And when they build the school at night, like hiding and smuggling building materials, this school became illegal. So they bring a settler who live in an illegal outpost, and they paid him to destroy this school, to apply the law on us. So, I mean, for the people who really want to understand what's really going on the ground, they really need to see it, to feel what we live every day by day, like under this pressure, and how they are making our life miserable in order to push us to flee away from this area, so settlers can steal it and annex it as Israeli like land. So this policy has been going on since decades, and it goes on once a week, twice a week, that they would come and destroy, once a month sometimes, that they would come destroy home here, school there, water pipe, confiscating tractors that is like transferring building materials, chasing away shepherds, settlers, physical violence that come and attack and attack like communities, burning cars, destroying homes, destroying properties, attacking people like physically in order to make them be afraid of living here as an innocent who's surrounded by like the settlers. They want us to feel, which is true, that we are innocents living in these small communities and surrounded by these settlements and armed settlers and armed foreign army, whose their goal very clear, which is to ethnic cleansing us and to steal our land and to build the settlements on it. So this is why there is settlers' physical violence. They always want us to be afraid. They always want to attack us, to revenge against us. So we would like run away from here. And in the recent years, unfortunately, they succeeded in that. Many Palestinian communities has left where they used to live. And after October 7th, at least in the area where I live in, South Hebron Hills, 5 communities has fled away. The people fled away from their homes. So in the last 5 years, I've been together with other friends. We have been documenting what's happening on the ground, especially the demolitions of our communities, the demolitions of school, of the homes, of the water pipes, of the electricity, the daily life that we're living in, the settlers' attacks, the small actions of resistance that we are trying to do in order to stop this ethnic cleansing from going on. We've been documenting it, and we have been working on a documentary. We wanted this political situation to be a story on a movie that people could look at it and understand, because Israel have been doing that, as we said, through a law. I mean, a law of military law, and make it a routine. It's not interesting anymore for journalists to come to write about another home being demolished and another home next week and another home the week after. They succeeded in making this as a routine, but they know very well that this is like putting pressure after pressure. I know families in 2 years, they built their homes 5 times, but the Israeli army know for how long this family would have the power to keep rebuild their home. When the bulldozer come and destroy it once after time, they would give up and just stop building their home, because they will not have enough money and they will not have the power to redoing it. So we showed this movie for the first time at the Berlinale in Berlin. It was February, and we won the best documentary award and the audience award for the first time it was screened, and the first 2 awards we got there. After the awards, we gave speech, me and the Israeli colleague who worked together, and because he called it apartheid system in Germany, and I asked for German government to stop send weapons to Israel so it would stop killing my people in Gaza. The Germans were not happy, at least the government. Berlin governor has attacked us and called this speech was anti-Semitic. I think the cultural minister, she said that she clapped for the Jewish filmmaker, for not me as a Palestinian. She was silly, actually, for me. There was, like, for me, a stupid discussion in Germany, sorry, since we brought all this evidence and showing them, and since all this evidence in Gaza, where you don't see Palestinian cameras or journalists filming the genocide and the atrocities, there is the Israeli soldiers' phones. They are just filming and posting, and still you have the people who's like covering their eyes and shut their ears, and they would come after that. Oh, we didn't see anything. No, we don't see any evidence of that Israel making kill zones. We show them what's happening here about the settlements and the outposts, and how our life became miserable under this regime. And we're really exhausted and sick of this world. How they can be this much hypocrisy and double standard. Like, I saw in Berlinale, for example, that they had Zelensky giving a speech last year, and they respect him and they let him giving speech. But for Palestinians, it's another case. Like, as they don't see us as a human beings. Like, and because we won these 2 awards and we give a speech, we just even called them to stop sending weapons. They were not happy with it. But anyhow, we have a job. We have a lot of work that together we have to continue. We have to keep fight on the ground, but fight the people who keep support this genocide and support and sending weapons and sending money and standing behind the Israeli government and the Israeli apartheid system. We should keep fighting them until, inshallah, one day, we live in the most miserable time and very disappointed, and to be honest, very hopeless about the future from what we are living in, day out. But inshallah, one day we will win on this, and we will end it. And thank you again.
Thank you, Bassett, so much. And what Bassett Yeah, please.
Sorry, yeah, the movie will be
Yes.
in festivals now, but inshallah sometimes soon will be public, and I ask everybody here to follow up if they are interested, and I ask you really to watch it. It can gives you a sense about Masafriata, but also the big picture about the occupation and how the life, especially for Palestinians in Area C, it is. And there, the pictures and videos are stronger than the word of me describing what's happening. So I ask you kindly, whenever you have chance to watch the movie, go for it. And thank you.
Well, now I hope that all of our attendees will make it to the cinema soon to watch this incredible documentary. Bassel, thank you for sharing your testimony and coming today and speaking on our panel and sharing the panel with all these amazing people. Please keep doing what you're doing. You inspire others to continue doing it as well. And it's honorable and courageous and brave, the work that you're doing. So I applaud you for that. And I hope that the world also will soon all applaud you for this incredible work. Thanks for coming today. I would like to now give the mic, the virtual mic to Ms. Francesca Albanese, who I also thank for coming, who has been absolutely relentless in the last 6 months, working and probably drowning in requests like ours. So we're very grateful for you coming today and hope that you can give us kind of an insight into some of the legal framings on forced displacement, what you have written about and what you have witnessed as the special rapporteur on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory, and your conclusions on how you see forcible displacement as a systematic tool used by Israel in order to coerce and forcibly displace entire communities, both in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, but also in Gaza. So thank you so much for being here today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. In fact, I did connect earlier, just I was not able to intervene. So sorry, I'm a technical.
Sorry about the technical difficulties today. It's not a good day.
But I didn't intend to be. I was a bit late, not that late, so I could listen to Issam and Vassel's presentation, which I both salute. And Vassel, I've not watched your movie yet, but I look forward to being a place where it's displayed, because it sounds the right thing to do. Really, I would like to start with this to comment on the work I've done in the past months. There is a need to spread information more than before, and there is amid the tragedy that has been provoked in the last 6 months. There is also probably the only silver lining I see is that there is more awareness and at the global level, and more dismay at the global level. So people are reacting, and in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and generally not just civil society, but like organizations, but the global citizens globally are getting into the street or trying to find a way to help. And for me, it's very important that right now there is the right diagnosis, because the right diagnosis might lead, it should be will lead, but might lead to the right cure. And I go back to something I said at the very beginning of my term as a special rapporteur. I think that we are all responsible for what is happening in Palestine. And I also think people with good intentions and in good faith, like the humanitarian system. When I look at the humanitarian system today, same thing as the humanitarian system 2 years ago, I wonder, what is the purpose of humanitarian aid in Palestine? Is it to renew itself, to resist no matter the restrictions? Because I don't think this should be the scope of the humanitarian presence. The scope of the humanitarian presence should be to aim to end itself, and restore a situation of normalcy. Nothing is normal in the occupied Palestinian territory. Nothing is normal for the Palestinians, and it has never been normal as far as I can remember. So let's go to see why. Because what's happening today was somewhat written on the wall. We were just unable to read the full picture, but we had the signals that things were escalating in a way that would soon get out of control. I think that those who have worked on, of course, this doesn't concern the Palestinians. The Palestinians have tried to be part of a struggle that would lead them to live free from subjugation, free from apartheid, free from domination throughout their life as a people. But all the rest of us around the Palestinian people, at a certain point, have started to point to the overarching structural issues like apartheid. There was not enough response to denounce apartheid as one of the root causes of the system which subjugates the Palestinians. I learned as I was investigating what has happened as of the, let's say, as of the 8th of October, that everything that I've documented in my last report, which I presented 10 days ago to the Human Rights Council, and the title of my report is Anatomy of a Genocide. It's not the case that I called it Anatomy of a Genocide, because again, we can, even if I couldn't go in length in describing how far this horror that the people in Gaza are experiencing today can be traced back. I say genocide is a process, it's never an act, and includes various modes of elimination. Genocide is not an exceptional aberration of human history. Genocide is a characteristic with its intent and processes, with its ideology. It's typical of settler colonialism, because settler colonialism exists like the taking of the land, the taking of resources from native communities. And when there is, the settlement part of it is to the benefit of someone else who moves into the land. Now, without disputing that the Jewish people have historical links to the land, without disputing that, this doesn't give them title to displace the Palestinians wherever they are. This is true today as it was true 8 years ago. So now we have the possibility to see clearly this trajectory, what settler colonialism has led to, and the fact that the state of Israel was born also because the Jewish people, most Jewish people from Europe, had been made refugees and survivors of a genocide themselves. This doesn't change what has happened to the Palestinians. So, no different from what has happened to other native people in the course of history, Palestinians today are facing an existential threat, because their presence has been met with the need from Israel to dominate them demographically. The forced displacement has been the backbone of Palestinians' existence in the land of historical Palestine, what remained of historical Palestine, for the past 75 years. There is no being Palestinian in the land without forced displacement, which has happened, I said, on the 12th of October, under the fog of war in massive numbers. 750,000 Palestinians were displaced in 1947 and 49. 400,000 Palestinians were displaced in 1967. And under the fog of war, this is what has happened in Gaza, primarily, where virtually 2 million people have been displaced. But also in the West Bank, because as it was said before, entire villages have been vacated of their Palestinian inhabitants, under threat, under attack, but this is the reality. As a Palestinian under Israeli rule, you pack and go. So what we have seen in Gaza is one stage of an erasure process, of an annihilation process that is typical of the kind of regime that Israel has established in the land. And they concluded that just what has been done in Gaza because I didn't have the opportunity, I didn't have the space to write a report that would cover everything that has been done in the occupied Palestinian territory, let alone the rest, because as you know, it follows outside the scope of my mandate. But just what has happened in Gaza meets in my legal reading the threshold of genocide. The killing members of the group has been a genocidal act, meaning aiming to lead to the destruction of the group in total, in part. And so the infliction of physical and mental harm, the 70,000 wounded, there's so many who couldn't cure themselves, who couldn't treat themselves, including for curable diseases, because there were no more hospitals. The fact that kids and adults had to be amputated because there were no medications to heal their wounds, and they had to be amputated without anesthetics. Think of this. Think of the pain of being captured, abused, tortured, but also think of the pain of having to see members of your group being captured, abducted, tortured, mistreated, your body displayed to the world. I mean, this is a trauma that will take generations to heal. And the third element is the creation of conditions that would make life of the group impossible, that will lead to the destruction of the group. Because destroying 70% of the civilian infrastructure, destroying whole houses, destroying whole hospitals, including the main signs of identity of the group, the archaeological sites, the historical sites, the schools, the universities, the cultural centers, destroying the arable land, the farming land, the fishing float, and at the same time saying no food, no water, no gas, no electricity, and evacuating people at the time there was an electricity blackout, and so people couldn't even know where they had to go. The conditions that the creation of conditions of life would be enough to derive the genocidal intent. Because what else can you do to a people when you take away all basic necessities for them to live? But the question is another, and we need to be very careful about that, because here there is not only the commission of genocide that requires accountability, that required prevention, and it was not prevented, and now requires accountability. But there is also the fact that through this genocide, it's like if Israel had rewritten the law of armed conflict, because Israel has justified this genocide as in compliance with international humanitarian law. Look at the terminology. Human shields. Human shields. Everyone was a human shield. When we know that in international humanitarian law, the use of human shields is to be proven. It cannot be assumed dogmatically as a state of affairs or confused with urban warfare. Or medical shielding, the fact that all hospitals were assumed to be there or used by Hamas, the fact that everyone has been, so many Palestinians have been then associated with Hamas, but Hamas, what? Hamas has been a governing force in the governing authority in Gaza. So everyone, doctors, engineers, journalists, anyone who is associated to life, political life in Gaza has become a target. And every building, every apartment, every civilian presence associated with them, including the places where people could get food, have been distorted. And so evacuation orders and safe zones. All this has been used to camouflage, as a camouflage for a genocidal logic. So this is why I'm saying it's dangerous for the Palestinians. It's dangerous for the Israelis, because God, what has happened to this society? They will take years to recover from what they've done when they realize what they've done, because some of them do and suffer with the Palestinians. Others don't. Others don't. They are into this logic of full erasure of the other, which is also part of a long tradition, of a long history of dehumanization of the Palestinians. And here we are today. We wouldn't be talking of genocide had the impunity not become so protracted, had the violations of international law been addressed before, and had the forcible displacement that is the quintessential element of the Palestinian nation's dismemberment 75 years ago become the daily reality for the Palestinians.
Thank you so much, Francesca. You've given us so much to think about. You have always given us so much to think about, especially as human rights defenders and people working in the sector. And we really appreciate your analysis always and your insights. And I've already taken a few notes of my own for our own internal discussions. I want to finish with a video from Dr. Aysam and Al-Mezan's colleague, Mr. Samir Zakout, who sent a powerful testimony that we really needed to show. It's 5 minutes long. We will wrap up after. So I just want to give a few concluding remarks before we show the little film and close this meeting. So a few housekeeping. First, we will send the report to everybody that has attended today. I was hoping to give you an overview of the recommendations, but we're running a little out of time, and I really want people to stay here to watch Samir Zakout's testimony. So we will be sure to be sharing the paper with you, which has all the recommendations, but also sets out the legal framework, which we were hoping that Ms. Paula Betancourt was going to do, but unfortunately she wasn't able to be with us today. And finally, please reach out to Mezan or Oxfam or ActionAid for any policy-making interventions that you would need from the different partners here or beneficiaries, and also for any opportunity that you have where you would think that this paper would resonate with your audience or with your targets. And finally, a few of us are also available as media spokespersons and would be more than happy to take interviews around this issue. And now to finish and conclude, I want to also extend my warm thank you to Rezmi for opening this meeting, and ActionAid for really leading and spearheading this entire writing of this joint paper. And Simon Randles, a special credit to him for putting the paper together originally. And also a special thanks to Dr. Aysam for making time, because I know your schedule is busy, so as Ms. Francesca Albanese. And Basil, we are inspired and honored to have had you today. Thank you to all of our participants. Please make note and listen very carefully to Samir Zakout's powerful words and painful words. But remember that this is not just about a conflict. This is not just about Israelis and Palestinians fighting. This is so much bigger than that, because every single one Palestinian on this panel has experienced displacement, or his ancestors have experienced displacement, or they're currently experiencing displacement. It's a part of our daily life. It's a fear that we live in as Palestinian collectively. And a part of this paper was also to remind everybody that while a potential genocide might be unfolding in Gaza, the West Bank is also experiencing annexation, forced displacement, demolitions, and coercive measures every single day. And we're talking about one Israeli government that governs this territory. Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem are not separate. And to remember to see them as one territory. I thank you all so much. And please, thank you so much for attending today. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions.
Thank you, Bushra. Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Well done.
can play the video.
Thank you, Busra.
Are we having a... Can we play it again?
I evacuate my department in Gaza City in Tel El Hawa neighborhood. It's 7 days after the Israeli aggression started. We displaced suddenly in the middle of the night. Someone knocking on our door. When I open the door, I find my neighbor. He's living like upstairs, and he told me that he received a phone call from the Israeli occupation forces, and they order him to evacuate, to leave the building, so that he and his son knocking all the doors in that time and asking all the people to move. We evacuate from the department in a very fast and hurry, because no one knows when they will target the building. And when we left and we go to one of our friends department to the morning, and then we decide to go to Rafah, because no one can be sure when they will target the building, and no one can even return back to the building, because if many times we have this. I'm working as a human rights defender, so that we know that many times when anyone returns to the building, which a warning by their forces, they target the building direct. So that we left everything in our department. We go with the sleeping clothes, and it's summer in that time, and we moved to Rafah, to sister of my wife's house. We spent 5 months there. Our life is totally destroyed. We start to struggle to have the basics, the things which you even didn't think about it, care about it, like to have water, for example. It's mission impossible. You will struggling a lot to have water, and then we start everything become there is no vegetables, no meat, no chicken. All the prices, it's become raising in a very crazy way, and we have to buy clothes for summer and winter. And 2 days after the arrival, they filling a building which very close to the house which we live in Rafah, so that it's like a horror. It's pushing, especially my daughters, in a very difficult situation, mental health, and they feel in a fear. After 5 months, I decide to come to Zawaidi, because I don't want to repeat the same experience, to leave in the last minute and leaving everything. In this time, I couldn't even find clothes to buy. There is no anything in the markets here except the cans which coming to us in the food parcels, and which coming here from the civil society organization. To be honest, no way to compare between this experience and what we have before. I think, to be honest, many times I thinking on my parents, on my grands, how they manage, how they survive from Nakba, how they rebuild their life. And I think we, like them, losing everything, our life destroyed. My boy, for example, lose everything, lose his work. My daughter Selma, she is in her last year in the university. Now she stopped, and Nada, it's stopped going to school. All of our life is destroyed now. Since the beginning of the day, we starting thinking about the water, how we can have a water enough for us, about the food, things which become very easy, very simple. You can have it anytime. I hope that this disaster will end, and even the occupation will end, and me and my people will have our freedom to end this occupation. And I hope that the international community will يعني defend the humanitarian law and the human rights law, because I think they destroyed everything when we are talking about humanitarian laws or human rights law or anything like this.
Thank you all and have a good evening. We really appreciate your attendance. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Bushra.
Thank you, Mary.